Hi everyone, and welcome back to Symphony 101, Luncheon with the Maestro. And today I'm continuing, these talks are sequential, so today I'm going to be continuing with my examination look at the beginning of Brahms' First Symphony. Talked about this last time. We talked about a few things that we needed to know before we actually got into talking about the piece. I'll just recap very briefly. In fact, before I do that, because I realized last time I just didn't get enough time to play the piece, so I just wanted to, we'll just play the opening and you guys can hear it. Let's see if we've got this right. Yep. So I hope you can see this. This is the orchestra, and conductor's right here. This is our timpani player at the back. I hope you can see that. We talked about that. Horns over here, trumpets, winds in the middle. We've got on the outside, actually, these are the violas, cellos, first and seconds, and basses at the back. So let's just listen to it, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so a big arrival point. So that's the opening. Very dramatic stuff. So the reason I want to look at this piece is because we've got three things essentially going on. Obviously, you saw the timpani, bum, 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 hammering out the eighth notes of a 6/8 rhythm, a 6/8 meter. That's the rhythm. We also had a climbing line in the strings, first, seconds, and cellos. This chromatically ascending line, a few things in between, but it's basically going upwards. And then in the winds, a descending line going against it. So it's about line and about how that's linked to the idea of meter and getting rid of this bar line. We talked about that before. So, yeah, dramatic stuff. First thing we talked about last time was time signature. And we went through all of this, talking about eighth notes, quarter notes, half notes, sixteenths. This piece is in 6/8, so you have 6/8 notes through the whole measure, and that's exactly what you find at the beginning of this piece. So that was time signature, which is related, of course, to the speed of the piece, the tempo. What is the tempo of the piece? Well, you know, in this one, there's no absolute marking. There's no metronome marking. This is the marking that was given by Brahms, un poco sostenuto, a little bit sustained. So it's kind of open to interpretation, but this performance is pretty similar to a lot of them. They're all within the same ballpark. So it's around that, 98 to the 8th note. That's what you're getting. And that's what you hear in timpani. You also hear it in the contrabassoon, the big guy, the big bassoon, and also in the double basses you're hearing that. Okay, so that's your tempo. Another thing we talked about before we can look at the score is the idea of clef. What note is that? We looked at all these: G clef, F clef, C clef, treble clef, bass clef. So the alto and the tenor clef, both of these are C clefs. And the note, it is C. All of those notes are C. All of them. The same C. Middle C. Right here. You can hear that. Whoa. There. That's the note, which of course is also the key of this piece. Talking about keys, this was key signature, which I said don't worry about yet. But this one's got 3 flats in it. These are called accidentals. Flats, sharps, naturals. This piece has got 3 flats. It's in C minor. And these flats happen in order. So B flat and E flat and A flat. So they actually happen in order. Doesn't change. Okay. When you see a key signature, these are always in order. The sharps or their flats. Okay. And they're just there to, as a shorthand, to make sure that, or to make it easier for the composer and also for the player, where all of the flats and the sharps and accidentals don't have to be written out. You see the B flat there, therefore every B flat in the piece, every B is a B flat, which we talked about here. Naturals would negate that, so we turn B flat into a B natural. And then the last thing I talked about, and this was kind of the crazy stuff, so I didn't really want to play with your brains too much. This was the idea of transposition and transposing instruments. It's what you see is not what you hear. And we saw the clarinet in B flat. And I talked about the horns, do a lot of this. Trumpets do as well. Some other instruments. So the idea of transposition, what you see in a score is not what you actually hear. So what do you see in the score? Well, there it is. Ta-da! I hope you can get that all in. I think that's it. Yeah. So I'll just point as we go. Poco sostenuto is your expression marking at the top. Now, you've got to make some decisions based on that. See here, I wrote PSO 96 to 98. It's the last time I did this PSO. It was around that 96, 98 mark, which is what this recording's at as well. 92 is up here. It's a bit slow, really. So it's somewhere in that 96, 98 range of metronome mark. It's in 6. So we're actually, as a conductor, you are beating this in 6. You saw that with the conductor in this performance. You see the list of instruments. You've got at the top. This actually is pretty standard. This rarely changes, but you've got the winds, brass, percussion, and then strings. That's the layout. You're never really going to see much different than that. It does change slightly, certain composers, Wagner, etc. But that's pretty much what you see. Flutes, oboes, clarinets in B flat. That's a German, right? So it's B flat. If it was B natural, it would be an H. Two bassoons, the contrabassoon, the big guy. Here's your horns. We talked about these guys. The first and second horn are in C, so you don't have to worry about transpositions. The third and fourth are in E flat. And that is a transposition that you have to worry about. So the first note you see here, see that's 1 and 2, and that's 3 and 4. Third horn there is playing what looks like a G. It's actually an E flat. B flat. It's the same pitch as the first oboe, first flute, except down an octave, first clarinet, first bassoon. It's the same octave as the first bassoon. Is it? No, it's an octave above that. And then we've got trumpets in C, no worries there. Then polkan, which is the timpani, and you hear that bum, 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 and it goes all the way through this. Then you've got the violin line underneath it, which is climbing upwards. First and second violins. Violas, they're doing the descending line. They're doing the line that the winds have. Cellos are following the first and seconds going upwards. You just see the shape, right, going up. And the basses are helping out the timpani and the contrafagot, the bass bassoon, the contrabassoon. And at the bottom, which you can just about see, here, the marking, which I've circled in red, says pesante, which means heavy. So that gives you an indication as to a little clue as to the speed of the piece as well, okay? Just that little thing at the bottom, pesante. So that's what you see. I'll play it. You can look at the score. Let's see if we can get back to the beginning of this. Hear the timpani? Line going upwards. This line going downwards. Two, three, 4, 5, 6. Then over here, which is just where it stops, you actually get a different meter. Let me just bring that in closer so you can see it. Right? I've got a triangle at the top. That's telling me that this is actually a 9. This is a 9/8, which sometimes is divided 3/3/3, which is why I've got a triangle. So it's basically like 3 beats in the bar that are subdivided into 3. But you've got 9 beats in the bar. That's a 9/8, which extends obviously the 6/8, and then you hit the downbeat, and that's what you just heard. Okay, so as a conductor, what am I looking for? What is in this music that I need to be worried about? I need to be concerned about? Well, the first thing, obviously, you're getting your tempo for your 8th notes. Bum, bum, bum. That's really important. Making sure that that's there, settled. Everyone else can listen to that. It's like your drum set. It's right there, okay? And then the next line, which is the most easy line to worry about or to concern yourself about, is the top line. So you've got this. Okay, so it's just this top line. Descending, 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 descending. Da, 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 da. And it's all chromatic, so you've got naturals and flats, and so it's half steps, half steps, half steps. And then on your first violins, second violins, and also your cello, down here, you get the reverse. And it's also a kind of chromatic line, and it's climbing upwards. So you hear this. I'll just move this away. Okay, so you hear this, right? So we get basically lines constantly going upwards, and that's you've got to be taking care of that. One interesting thing to see on this line, really, I think one of the most interesting things to see on this line, which I've written in here, is what are these? What are these things, right? In music, certainly in strings, we're always concerned about what these lines are above the music. They can be phrase marks. The composer tells you that that's kind of where the phrase is. It's kind of where the first sentence is, and then underneath it you've got these ties. Those ties are basically you play the note through across the bar line. You see that one, the C sharp goes across the bar line. There's a line there. That's the bar line, which we're trying to get rid of course, because the bar line is the enemy of all music. And that C sharp is held across by a tie. So you don't replay this, you just hold it across. So Brahms is already taking away the bar line. He's hammering it out with this guy, but here he's playing against it, and it's a tension. There's a tension between these two things, and that's what creates the drama of this opening. But obviously, for strings, you need to worry about another thing, and that's where your bows move. Bowing. Big thing about strings. I haven't talked much about it. I might do a session on it. But bowing, what do you do with the bow? Up and down. Simple. Down bow, up bow, down bow, up bow. But the variations are endless, and there's always a constant discussion about bowings. It's related to tempo, it's related to articulation, how sustained, the dynamic, how loud it is. All of these things are factors when you're deciding bowings. And when you see a bowing marking, there's just basically 2 of them. There's that one, which looks like an upside down U. That's a down bow. And then this little guy, like a V, that's marking for an up bow. And what in this piece, you need to use quite a lot of bow. You want it to be very sustained. You don't want to run out of bow. You want to have the bow pressure, bow distribution, all of those things that we talk about in string playing. And here are bowings that I marked out, and you can see that there's a lot of them. I've changed a lot. And I've taken this bowing from somebody else, so bowings kind of get handed down from one conductor to another, one string player to another, or one orchestra to another. But here you can see the bow changes. That's the down, and then there's the up on that which isn't marked by the slur above it, right? The phrase mark above it doesn't say that, but you cannot play that first phrase in one bow. Not really possible. So we're going to take more. And you see what I've done. Down, and then up for the little small notes there, the little 16th notes. So a lot of bow changes going on there. And that's something that the conductor needs to worry about as well. And the conductor and the concertmaster usually have a conversation about that, about the bowings and how many bows you want to take. And then one of the other things about bowing is how articulate do you want it to be? This is easy. This is just all very sustained. He marks legato. Legato means smooth. Very smooth, sustained. There we go. There are many other kinds of bowings. Some are off the string, some are on the string. So on the string basically means you put the bow on the string and you draw it and you keep it contact with the string all the time. Off the string means that the bow lifts off. The bow lifts off the string, and you can create short staccato, we call it. You create short notes. That's not here. This is all very heavy, legato, sustained on the string. So I am going to play this recording one more time, and I don't know if this will work. I'll give it a try. I'm going to stand back here and I'm going to conduct what I would be doing if this was me doing a piece. It's obviously not me. Next season it will be. Just a little teaser there. Brahms 1 will be appearing. It's such a terrific piece. History of Brahms 1, the story of Brahms 1, I may go into at some point. But for now, we're just talking about the opening. This is the opening of Brahms 1. Write my score, and I'll set the recording, and I'll basically beat along to it. So this is it. Okay, Brahms 1. There we go. So a lot of what you see, what I was doing, I hope that worked. I hope you could hear it and see. But a lot of what I was doing is obviously very deliberate. Eighth notes, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you'll see the pattern is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It goes that way, basically one big beat, and then that way for the second big beat. If 6/8 becomes faster, the 6/8 notes become faster, you actually end up in a pattern of 2 because you group it as 2 groups of 3. So it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, but this is so slow that we're actually beating every single 8th note. And the way I'm doing it isn't like this. I'm trying to get across the idea of this legato and the sustained sound that you're trying to create from the strings and from the winds. The timpani and the bass and the contrabassoon guy, they kind of take care of themselves. They just lock into the 8th notes. They keep it heavy. They don't rush it. And that's really set. Boom, it's the machine. And everything else connects to that machine. And that's where really I'm looking after the line. It's the line. It's making that violin and cello line go upwards and the wind line come downwards against it, creating those tensions across the bar line, making the bar disappear. That's the essence of this opening. That's what it's about. It's very dramatic. It's simple in its concept, but it's so original and so striking in the way that it's done. So I'm going to play it one more time with the orchestra, and you can look at the orchestra. And kind of listen for those lines again. Listen for that top line that's going upwards, and then the other line that's coming downwards, and then the timpani and the basses and the contrabassoon doing the eighth notes. Here we go. One last time. The opening of Brahms Symphony number 1. Okay, so that's it. That's what we're looking for. That's what the orchestra will be playing. That's the lines that we're looking for, the idea of line. I hope I've explained a little bit about line, all about the line, musical line, and how it interacts with the meter, and how it goes across the bar line in this piece, and how you're playing with that idea of the meter being 6, and the line, sometimes the rhythm of the line is actually going across it and creating this tension. And it's just a really dramatic, tense, suspenseful, is that a word? Opening to this symphony. He wrote his first symphony when he was 40 years old. He was actually a little bit scared because he was scared of Beethoven being the big shadow in the background. And he didn't quite know how to create, because Beethoven was the great symphonist coming before Brahms, and Brahms was reluctant to release a first symphony, and then he did this, and he knocked it out of the park. It's an extraordinary piece. So that's where I'm going to end for today. Thank you so much for being with me. Once more, please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time on Symphony 101.